You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport. It is, for most people listening, Friday afternoon, evening, maybe it's the weekend. But for us, we're here in this moment, keeping Canada Weird together, just like we do every week. Before we take care of our task, how are you doing on the other side of my screen?
I'm doing very well, my friend. Thanks for asking. And I assume you're doing well?
I'm doing great, but I'm very curious. You've kind of like are hiding something over there that I suspect is an extra special drink. Do you got a little secret?
Well, I do have a special drink. It is a special drink that I've had once before on the show.
Okay, so this is a rerun?
Yeah, it is, but it's only a one-time rerun. It is still what I consider to be special, and I think I got a different flavor this time, but I'm not sure. But
well, let it rip, man. Let it rip. I'm sitting down. I'm ready.
I was getting gas tonight, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a candy can again because I remember enjoying the one I had before very much.
Yeah.
This is bubblegum flavor.
Weird.
And sugar-free, caffeine-free, checks all the boxes. Here comes the crack. And now the taste. Very good.
When I hear like a bubblegum drink, to me that sounds like it's going to be too sweet and a little crazy. Does it feel like something that, like, I don't know, a 6-year-old should be drinking, or is that like a respectable adult beverage?
It's somewhere in between.
Okay.
If you're looking to relive, your wild youth and you want to really throw caution to the wind, just enough to feel alive, get a candy can.
Yeah, throw on the New Kids, grab a candy can, and hang tough.
Yeah, watch an episode of Breaker High or an episode of
Malcolm in the Middle?
Malcolm in the Middle or whatever.
Oh, you're right. I brought up New Kids because just recently I was at a thrift store and somebody must have donated like the New Kids on the Block collection of all collections. I couldn't help but grab it. It was a whole bunch of like coloring books and magazines and sticker albums that are like, from 89, 90, 91, but they're pristine. Like they look like they just came off the shelf. I couldn't help but buy them. And now I don't know what to do with them. I got a stack of New Kids stuff. If anyone listening is a diehard New Kids fan, maybe send me an email. We could work something out. They could be a good gift for a listener.
Yeah. What kind of deal would you be open to, though? Like with a listener?
It'd be a voicemail. It's like when someone sends a voicemail and they email nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, I send them a hot pink swag pack with, stickers in their correspondence badge. But I don't see why I wouldn't stick a New Kids on the Block coloring album or something in there for the right voicemail.
Right. So that's all it's going to take to get this is just a voicemail?
Not just a voicemail. They'd have to blow my mind if they want a vintage collectible coloring book featuring the New Kids.
Okay. Well, that's a challenge then to the listeners, and see if they can blow Jordan's mind enough to warrant
To get a
getting
New
the
Kids
free
book.
New Kids coloring book.
I don't really have a special drink tonight, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I have a hot tea. I just kind of felt like I needed something like a hot tea, but it's doing the trick. I'm ready to kick butt. No taking names tonight. We're going to keep Canada weird by exploring the unique and unusual stories that played out across this great nation over the past week. And oh goodness, there's been a lot of them. But before we get into this week's story, let's catch up on some comments from listeners about some stuff we talked about last week, starting with the geese who took over or are currently taking over, laying siege to a military base in Ottawa. You remember that spectacle last week, right?
I do very clearly in my mind. I remember the geese hissing and preparing for the animal uprising.
Yeah, well, here's an interesting thing is we have an inside source. We have an employee of that military base who wants to give us a bit of background on what's going on over there. I'm going to keep them anonymous because I have a feeling that the Department of National Defense isn't cool with their employees coming on podcasts and talking about what's going on the base. So here's an anonymous listener.
Hey guys, it's from Ottawa. I'm just calling in regard to the Canada Geese at the Carling campus for DND. I don't know if you can say who I am and where I'm from, but I actually work there. it's really not as terrifying as everyone's making it seem. Like these geese, yeah, they honk, they make noise, but they tend to build their nests along the edges of the buildings, away from the walkways. So to pass close enough to them to get cobra chickened is pretty funny to me, because that would just be somebody who lost their brain that day, like decided to walk out of their way to go past these nesting geese. I personally have never seen anyone attacked or chased. Not to say that it hasn't happened, but all of that is definitely worth the amount of cuteness that is around once all the goslings hatch. It's not frightening. It's actually really cool to be so close to nature and get to witness all the stages of them migrating back, not mating, that's kind of creepy and weird, but nesting, hatching, taking care of the young. Yeah, it's really cool. But anyways, I thought I'd put my 2 cents in. It was just neat to hear about the place I work on your show.
So is it much ado about nothing? Because she says it's not that scary, these geese hissing, and she likes to see them. She likes to see all aspects of geese reproduction, with the exception of the actual act of mating. She doesn't like that part, or at
There's
least
a
isn't
line then
comfortable.
with her. There's a line where she becomes sickened by the act. It's like, like, stop it, stop it, stop it right now.
Well, that's why you cover your eyes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what my mom used to do whenever we were well, we never watched geese have sex, but
Whenever your mom took you watching the geese mate,
yeah, she was like,
it's a coming of age thing, Aaron.
this is how I learned. That's how my mom talks. This is how I learned, son.
Yeah.
And it's how you too shall learn. My mom used to do, when I was young, we'd be watching a movie. She'd keep a towel next to us. And whenever there was like maybe a nude scene or a scene that was maybe sexual in nature, she would hold the towel up in front of my face. So she still wanted to watch the movie, but also didn't want me to see the acts of love between the characters. But
Okay.
I mean, this anonymous caller is possibly hinting at the fact that maybe potentially the news media,
The fake news media?
yeah, could be blowing something out of proportion just to get ratings. Do you think that's not possible? Is it? Do you think?
I'm reading between the lines of what she said, and yeah, I think maybe it is possible. What would it would just be kind of like a bit of mass hysteria that's been agitated and fueled by the fake news media, who is using fear tactics. Yeah, if it
Hmm.
wasn't for that anonymous insider whistleblower, we'd still be sitting here terrified.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just a ratings game. Is that what you think it is?
I think that's highly likely. But you know what else is a ratings game?
Keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird, specifically on like podcast rating systems and networks. We're on Apple Podcasts and people can rate and review us. Same goes for Spotify. I usually don't like read the reviews and stuff, but I want to start with one because we got a comment on last week's episode 152, that was just worthy of opening with. I wish this came in a voicemail, but this is feedback from a Spotify user named Alex, who was calling me out specifically for my thoughts on Ethan, the model. You remember the teenage model, Nova Scotia's Next Top Model we talked about last week?
I do, yes, very, very much remember that because I kind of questioned your opinion on models and the
Yeah.
industry.
So did Alex. Here's the Spotify review we got after the release of that episode. Jordan, I was born very good looking, and I do not have what it takes to be a model. I'm not photogenic, and I have no idea what to do when I'm in front of the camera. It's a skill, and I think you should show Ethan a little bit of respect. So
Wow.
after reading that, I thought a little bit about it, and Ethan, if you're out there, I am sorry. If Alex, born good looking, can't model, and you can, you're doing something right, Ethan. And keep my Robin's Donuts hat off to you.
You didn't seem overly enthusiastic about apologizing when I asked you to.
No, I think it's about time and perspective. Seeing that comment on Spotify and just having 2 sleepless nights laying there thinking about it. Yeah, Ethan, I too have no idea what to do in front of the camera. And I wasn't even born good looking. So, Ethan, you're doing something right. I apologize. I'm thinking maybe we should pull last week's episode.
Actually, we should shut the show down. I think we've crossed the line here. I think it's time for us to throw in the towel.
Maybe. I think in the interest of transparency, though, I'm going to keep last week's episode up, and I'm just going to own that misstep. So let's move on. Let's get into it. We got a whole night of keeping Canada weird. We have some amazing stories about scammers. We have a great story about an old man and a dog who's taken on the Montreal Police in what may be the most ridiculous story we'll have ever covered. We're going to hop across the border to the U.S. for one special story. And yeah, we're going to revisit Newfoundland. It's been a while since we had a good Newfoundland story, and there's something going on in small town Newfoundland that deserves a spotlight to be shown at it. Let's have a quick break, and then we'll get into some scammers who shocked and awed Canadians over the last week. I don't know what it is, Aaron. Stories about scammers and scams, it's always caught my attention, both because it's a good public interest story to let people know these scams are out there, but I'm just endlessly amazed by what scammers can come up with and what people will fall for. Have you been scammed lately?
Lately, have I been scammed? No, I'm pretty keen on keeping an eye and an ear out for scams. I've been scammed before in my life, but certainly not over the telephone.
Yeah, I'd be a tough nut to crack. 'Cause I don't trust a lot of people, especially if I don't know them well. And I'm certainly not someone who is like spontaneous with financial decisions. And it seems that like most people who fall for scams are people who are like quick to, take on something and trust and just jump right in. We got a couple scam stories tonight that are going to surprise a lot of people out there. I want to start with my favorite genre of scams, which are scams involving psychics. During our February 14th of 2025 episode, we heard the story about a psychic who charged an Ontario woman tens of thousands of dollars to help her get a man at the gym that she liked to fall in love with her. Well, news coverage of that story seemed to kick the hornet's nest a little bit and brought some other people out of the woodwork who went public with their personal stories of being victimized by psychic scammers. Here's a story of 2 separate men in Ontario who recently fell for psychic scams. Here it comes.
It's a trap.
Joanne Whalen went to a psychic who promised her she could make a man at the gym fall in love with her. It started with $500, but eventually she handed over more than $50,000. The love connection never did happen. We also heard from a man named Ray who asked us not to identify him. His wife had died and he started online dating. He went to a psychic to find out if a woman he met would be a good match.
He was telling me the girl likes you very much.
The psychic said he could make the woman fall madly in love with him.
The girl loves you more. It's like that.
If you give $12,000.
Yeah.
Ray married the woman, but they immediately had problems. The psychic said he could repair the relationship for more money. They told you they'd fix your marriage.
Yeah.
And did they fix your marriage?
No.
Ray gave 3 psychics $75,000. Another man, HJ, also asked us not to show his identity. A psychic told him he was controlled by demons.
That whatever demon was in me or my family would be removed.
The psychic kept asking for more money, and HJ was told if he paid it, the demons would be purged and he would win a huge jackpot.
He did some prayers, he said, and then what he did is he said, "Oh, you're a lucky man. You can win the lottery and all that."
In the end, HJ gave the psychic $80,000.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I feel like an idiot. Total idiot. I let this thing happen to me.
Both Ray and HJ say giving away so much money has ruined their finances, and they're not sure how they'll recover.
Oh my goodness. So we have 2 separate psychic stories. Let's start with the first one because it seemed like that psychic, it almost kind of worked. The psychic was like, pay me and I'll make them fall in love with you. And then they ended up like it worked and they got married, but then
They got married. Yeah. Yeah. That was
they were
impressive.
halfway there. But then when the marriage started to break down, that's when the second, like the follow-up psychic scam, like I fixed the marriage just for, for a ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So in his story, so these people were made anonymous.
Mhm.
Their identities were hidden in this news story. So we covered a story a few weeks back where those teenagers were targeting that home.
Yes.
And the homeowners didn't want their identities to be known. So
They zoomed in on his gut.
they zoomed in on the guy's belly the entire interview. In this case, even though they had blurred out his face, they still decided to zoom in on the guy's crotch for an extended period of time to hide his identity. And I'm like, but you're already blurring his face out. Why are you zooming in on his crotch as well? Like, it didn't make any sense. It was a total crotch shot and a long one. And I'm just wondering, like, when you go to news school or whatever you go to become a news broadcaster.
News school, like the Canadian School of News, which is in
or the International School of News.
Mhm.
Is that a school?
Probably.
Thank you. Anyway, is that what they teach in these schools? Is it, because it seems like this is not just isolated incidents of focusing in on people's body parts that they may not want focused in on.
Yeah. Well,
this is happening all the time.
It seems to be a plague, destroying media. Which of the two scams was more embarrassing there? Was it the romance version of the psychic scam, like help me get married, then help me fix the marriage? Or was it there's demons inside you and your family, and I'll help you win the lottery?
The demons/lottery one is the worst.
Just
because
it's the scatter shot of psychic scams.
Yeah, and it's like, I think you would know if you had a demon inside you, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think it'd be like, there's a demon in me, and it's getting me. I'm coming to you to get it out of me for me.
Mhm.
And then the psychic is like, okay, well, you came to me, so I am going to charge you for my time, and I'll see what I can do to get the demon out. I wouldn't blame the psychic in that situation, but this sounds like, this person who shall not be named goes to the psychic, and the psychic's like, yeah, I think there's a demon in you. If you give me $50,000 or $80,000, I'll get the demon out of you. And not only that, out of all of your family members as well, because they also probably have them.
And you'll win the lottery.
Yeah. And and while you're here, you'll win the lottery as well.
Talk about
fork over the cash.
Talk about too good to be true. My goodness. He summed it up at the end where he's like, I'm an idiot.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I feel like an idiot. Total idiot. I let this thing happen to me.
I hate to
I'm an
agree.
idiot.
I hate to agree with the guy, but man, if you'll fall
Yeah.
for that, you'll fall for anything. But I think with these stories, we're just hearing kind of the end result. I wonder what brings these people to the psychic to begin with. Do people actually go to a psychic, like thinking of the first guy with the romance related scam? Did he go there to help to try to hire the psychic to get someone to fall in love with him, and then they ended up getting married? Like, I wonder what brought him to the psychic. And with the second guy, just as you said, like, if he didn't go there for help with the demon that was inside of him, why did he go there to begin with? I would like to know how these psychics operate, because I thought it was just entertainment palm reading stuff. Apparently, somewhere out there in Canada, these psychics are doing like some real heavy lifting.
I mean, I can see loneliness being a driving factor here easily. You're lonely. Your spouse passed away maybe a year ago or something, and you're just looking to fill the void, and you're thinking, maybe I'll go to a psychic. Maybe they'll tell me that I'm going to meet somebody, and all of these things. A psychic who reads people, they may not actually be psychic, but they sure are good at reading somebody and who's susceptible or vulnerable to, persuasion and manipulation. So this is the thing that the psychic probably assesses when an individual walks through the door.
But it's fraud. Like you can't promise something like that, or and offer something like that and take money. I just hope these people follow through with like pressing charges or something, because it must be fraud.
It has to be, because nobody can promise what they're promising, and then they're saying, if you give me this amount of money, I will make this thing happen, and then it doesn't happen, obviously. And then, yeah, that is definitely fraud.
Let's move on from psychic scammers to less supernatural and paranormal scammers, because it doesn't take psychic abilities to scam people in Canada. Here's one that we'll just call scammed by someone that wasn't your bank. When 71-year-old Ida Pala got a call about a $19,000 purchase at Holt Renfrew, she knew something was wrong. She didn't shop there. To help her, I'm using air quotes here, bank deal with the suspected fraud on her account, she cut up her credit card and arranged for her bank to have an Uber driver come pick up the cut up credit card to have it properly destroyed. Here's the story of Ida being scammed by not her bank.
$19,085.85 at Holt Renfrew.
Ida Paula says she normally can't afford to shop at Holt Renfrew, but claims fraudsters racked up $19,000 at the luxury store using her credit card.
Seniors need to know. Don't trust anyone. If they say it's the bank, hang up. I will call you. I mean, you think I'd be smarter than that?
Pala has been with RBC for 35 years. She says she got a phone call telling her card had been compromised. The person knew her security questions and instructed her to cut up her debit and credit cards. He claimed after the postal strike they weren't using mail and said an Uber would pick up the pieces to be fully destroyed.
My husband kept saying, hang up, we'll go to the branch. Hang up, we'll go. Of course, I never listened to him,
A few days later, a real RBC agent called.
I said, we just spoke a couple of days ago. What is this? She goes, that wasn't us.
In less than 24 hours, she was out $25,000.
It felt awful. I felt like a sinking feeling.
Pala doesn't expect to get the money back and wants to warn others how easily it could happen to them.
What can I say?
I don't want to laugh at her because I feel bad for her. And that, like the quote at the end, you just hear her gasp and go, what can I say? Like, I guess that's how you'd feel. Oh, $25,000. And you don't realize it until after you understand that you fell for something so stupid as like cut up the card and we're going to send an Uber driver to pick it up so it can be properly destroyed. Like, that is a huge red flag. That doesn't make any sense.
So in this story, though, they said that the scammers knew her security questions.
Yeah, and I don't understand what they mean by that. Because if your bank called you, they would ask you questions, what's your date of birth, or, what your postal code or something. They would ask you the question and you would say the answer. So if you were trying to scam this lady, you'd call and you'd be like, hi, ma'am, I'm calling from your bank. Just before we start, I just need to ask you a security question. What's your date of birth? Oh, it's May 5th or whatever. Okay, great. Let's continue. Because is that what happened? Because it's they made a point to say they answered the security questions. I've never had like my bank I don't think I've ever had my bank call me, but I couldn't imagine they would ask me anything that only my bank would know. Maybe.
I don't know.
I think they could
I was kind of caught off guard by that, but yeah. So anyway, it's just, again, we've said this on the show before, but if they're calling you, it's a scam. That's just the blanket policy here that you need to have.
Yeah, no bank has that kind of customer service.
No
bank or business. No. They're definitely not going to send an Uber to pick anything up. That's
the weirdest part of
that's
it.
What
Uber to go pick up the cut up car
so we can properly destroy it. Like, what are they going to do? Is it like Lord of the Rings where they bring the ring into the darkest depths of Mordor?
And why an Uber? Why wouldn't the bank just be sending
like a prepaid envelope or something, or just say like cut it up and like a bunch of times and throw it away?
Why would a bank ever use Uber as their choice? Like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
But this is like, it's ridiculous. It's $25,000 though. That's a lot of money for anyone to dish out. You could hear it in her voice. She felt like an idiot. I hope by going public, it does help people, because that is the only way to protect the vulnerable, gullible people, is just to have these stories out there and let people know that if your phone rings, it's good chance it's not who they say they are, unless it's like your family or something. If they want money, hang up.
But even if it is your family, yeah, because we've
true.
covered stories where people are pretending to be nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and they're extorting money out of older people.
Where does it end, man, for people? I don't know. I'm not giving anyone money, because there's scammers out there.
Yeah, don't even, when you're going to the store to buy milk, don't give the cashier any money, because they're scamming you. So just go in, grab the milk, and run. That's what you got to do.
Good advice.
Yeah, or
Good
else
advice.
You will be scammed.
The two stories we just discussed generally involve people targeting the vulnerable, but in those cases with scams, it's often seniors. I have a story here coming out of Montreal that is it has Keep Canada Weird written all over it. It's completely insane, and it involves a nasty dispute between an elderly man who likes to walk with his unleashed dog and sing songs to his dog, and the Montreal Police force that don't want him doing it. Just last week, the situation involving the old man with the dog and the Montreal Police turned ugly, and it wasn't the first time it turned ugly. But let's start with what happened last week. Here's the story.
Louis Rousseau likes to sing and walk around the plateau with his dog, Cookie. But on Friday,
it happens here.
While he was crossing this intersection, he says he was approached by a Montreal police officer.
She rushed toward me and she said, "Don't move. Put your dog on a leash."
The 78-year-old says he told the officer he wasn't going to do that and kept walking. A video posted on social media shows parts of his interaction with police.
So I did let go of my stick and then walk away, and then she ran after me with her pepper spray.
Goldie Marco says she saw what happened, adding she was shocked by the use of force.
It was just a blatant display of violence.
This isn't Rousseau's first run-in with the SPVM. In 2022, he was also stopped for not having his dog on a leash. He has been charged with resisting arrest. That case is still before the courts, says his lawyer. But she also added that he was acquitted in other cases, including a case involving a violent interaction with police. Rousseau has been charged with assault with a weapon and is expected to appear in court on July 4th.
So just to recap some of that, this is a 78-year-old man, Louis Rousseau, and he's well known in Montreal because he has a big walking stick that looks like kind of like something a wizard would carry. He has a big gray beard, kind of like what a wizard would have. And then his dog Cookie, this mangy little dog, is unleashed and just kind of walks around behind him. And 78-year-old Louis Rousseau just walks around town yodeling and singing, and the police have a problem with his dog not being on a leash. And for that interaction with a 78-year-old man regarding leashing your dog, for that to end in like pepper spraying and a violent takedown, that seems to me to be way over the line.
Right. It's this is another case of I don't think we've got the whole story here. Do you feel that?
I feel like he's an eccentric guy who probably doesn't treat the police or interact with the police in the way that they're used to, and maybe their instinct is to turn or to get physical and like, no, hands behind your back, you got to do listen to us and do that. I feel like it's just a case of he needs to be treated with kind of like I wouldn't say kid gloves, but I think he needs to be treated in a different way than maybe other people they interact with are treated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you look at him, he's a frail 78-year-old man. He's not hurting anybody. Even if he wanted to use that stick as a weapon, I don't think there's any need to be like throwing him to the ground and pepper spraying him and all this stuff. It just seems not right.
Yeah, but it also seems like there's more going on here than we're aware of. I just, I don't know, because I just can't see why they would use that amount of force for no reason at all.
Well, I think this story, the article we just heard was from just last week. Let's dig into this story a little bit deeper by going into a past story from 3 years ago involving this same man, the same police force, and it's basically a carbon copy of this same incident, except it gives us more detail. In the story we just heard, they described past charges that he's facing from 2022 that are still before the courts. Let's listen to news coverage regarding his arrest then, because that also happened downtown and was witnessed by a whole bunch of people and filmed, and they were all on the news about it. Here's the same man involved in a very similar incident involving whether or not his dog was on a leash 3 years ago.
For many Plateau residents, Louis Rousseau is a neighborhood fixture. He's known for belting out ballads and walking his Cocker Spaniel, Cookie. On Sunday afternoon, he was approached by police on the corner of Pine and Saint Laurent. He says officers were trying to ticket him for having Cookie off leash.
She was trying to hand it to me, and I just walked back like this. When I didn't show my hand, I didn't want to get the ticket, so I just walked back. And then the policeman circled me.
Instead of taking the ticket, he says he sang.
So I kept singing, and I thought it would be a good way to let them know that I was no threat.
The song turned into screaming, and we looked out the window to see him being dragged by 3 police.
And then they started forcefully pulling him. At this point, you're like, okay, this is an older person. Like, this is really traumatic.
The 75-year-old Rousseau says he was put into a police car, then was asked to get back out, which he didn't want to do.
They start peppering me. And they finally got me out of the car and they handcuffed me.
Witnesses say by the end, there were around a dozen officers on the scene.
Absolute excessive use of force.
So we can learn a bit more about his relationship with the police through that story. They tried to give him a ticket, I guess, for not having his dog on a leash. Rather than accept the ticket, he walked away. Then to show them he wasn't a threat, he just sang at them. And it was during his singing, which I thought was actually quite charming, that they decided to take him down, put him in a car, drag him out of the car, pepper spray him. It's just I'm on his side in this. I think when you're 70-something, you're roaming around town with your dog, just leave them.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take the other side here, and I'm gonna play.
You're supporting the police in this story.
Well, I'm just gonna say this. I'm not gonna fully support either side, but what this smells like to me is that these are the only 2 circumstances that the interactions between this man and the police have been filmed. Right? So, and what we're seeing here is not the whole incident that is happening. You know, we're simply people who are far away on the other side of the street, you know, like they're not seeing everything. They're not hearing everything. It's just simply the visual of the police taking down an older man. So it seems like to me that these are 2 of many, many interactions between this man and the police. So they probably deal with him all of the time. And
I'm
he's
sure
a constant issue to them all of the time, and doesn't listen, doesn't, we don't, anyway, we don't know. But one thing I do know for sure from this is that he refuses to put a leash on his dog after he's been told multiple times. So that
like arrested and pepper sprayed about it, and he's still like, no.
That to me says that this guy doesn't listen, and I'm sure has many interactions with the police where he refuses to listen, refuses to cooperate, and then one thing leads to another. He's getting pepper sprayed. He's getting arrested. He's getting thrown to the ground. I don't think this is, I'm sure you can still argue that they're using maybe more force than they have to, but at the same time, we don't have all the facts. We don't have the whole story. We don't have the whole picture. And so I don't think that we can come to any conclusions here.
Okay. Just to put it on record, though, is that you're not necessarily supporting the police. You're willing to see both sides of it and understand how their frustration and his stubbornness together may form this kind of volatile mixture that leads to a boil over of pepper spray and force.
And especially if they're dealing with him in this way all of the time, like it's constant with them. Every time they're downtown, he's doing something, and it's like, and then they try to get him to stop, and he won't listen because he's clearly not listening about the leash. So
No.
that we know.
I don't think there is anything they'll ever be able to do to this man to get him to put his dog on his leash. I think it's his whole personality at this point. I walk, I sing, I carry my stick, and my dog trails behind me. And no police force in Quebec or Canada or the world will change it.
Yeah, but I do believe that if you're not in an off-leash designated area, then you should have your dog on a leash, even if your dog is the sweetest, kindest, most lovable dog in the world. They have to be on a leash. So it frustrates me.
Yeah, it's a part of dog ownership. It's a nasty situation. I just feel like they could have handled it or could be handling it in a different way that doesn't involve criminal charges, pepper spray, and all the other nonsense that went along with this. But stories like this make me glad I'm not a cop. But all that said, let's get to our final ad break of the night because we got something big to get into. It's been a while since we covered some nonsense in Newfoundland. In a situation playing out at the Marystown, Newfoundland post office deserves our full attention. Let's take a quick break, have a sip off our special drinks, and we'll come back swinging with some Newfoundland weirdness. I had to dig deep for this next story because the mainstream media is silent when it comes to periodic sewer smells delaying the processing of mail in rural Newfoundland. It's been a while since we covered a good Newfoundland story, but fortunately the Marystown post office just delivered a bundle of weird Canadian news for us to plug our noses at. As I recently learned, this particular post office has gained a reputation for closing its doors early, often, and unexpectedly. And it's all because of a periodic sewer smell. That should be the name of our new album. Here comes the story.
For months, Canada Post has been experiencing sporadic closures at its Marystown post office. At times, a foul smell seeps into the building, creating an unsafe work environment for staff.
Well, it's been closed now for several months, almost up to a year, off and on a weekly basis sometimes, and sometimes several times a month. It got to do with the aromas that's inside, which is actually making some of the employees have headaches and nauseousness from the smell. So that's the reason why it's closed. It's a big inconvenience, but it's also a cost because, it's not cheap to drive from one end of Marystown to the other. You could come in at 10 o'clock to check your mail, and by the time you get from the south side of Marystown, a half an hour later, it's closed again. So, and like I said, it's no fault of the employees or the people that's running the building. It's the building itself. We need to either get a path forward from the Postal Service. Either we got to figure out where the issue is, or we got to start looking at an alternative motive for either relocate the post office. But we definitely cannot do without the Postal Service in the town of Marystown and the Bjorn Peninsula.
Oh man, the voices coming out of Newfoundland just add such a nice flavor to that story. For one, we hear the reporter who has an amazing voice that we'll talk about in a second, but the man who was carrying the majority of that story was actually the mayor of Marystown. They bring the mayor, he's standing in front of the post office, just letting it rip. I love the accent.
Oh yeah, I liked how you slipped up and called him the mayor of Mayorstown.
How do you say it? Marystown. The mayor of Marystown.
No, it just sounds like you're saying the mayor of Mayorstown, like a town of mayors. Like he's the mayor of all the other mayors, you know.
I like him though, but what a situation! It smelled. They were classy by calling it a sewer smell. We all know what they're talking about. That the building smells so bad that the employees are, probably for good reason, refusing to work there. So it's been going on for a year that they've been shutting the post office down almost daily, if not almost weekly, if not daily.
Do you think that the employees are exaggerating the smell so they can get time off work?
Oh, gosh. It'd be hard not to. Like, it would kind of suck to work in a post office or any kind of job like that. And if you did have a way out...
Why do you think it sucks to work at a post office?
It'd just be monotonous.
Listen, this is the second week in a row that you are slamming entire professions. Last week it was modeling, and now this week it's the entire postal service, the one that you use every day to make a living.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the work or the job. I'd like to be a mail carrier. That I could do, but to actually work in the processing of mail, I think it'd just be really monotonous. And let's say if you're just, I don't know what happens inside a post office, but I imagine there's like a big treadmill or something, or conveyor belt, and there's just like envelopes and packages going on, and you're like typing stuff in a computer endlessly and filling out little forms. And all that would be bad enough. Mm-hmm. Then to have like the strong periodic smell of sewer, yeah, it would probably make me a little nauseous. And I'd be like, you know what? I just can't do this today. You may have to fire me because I'm not doing this when it smells this bad in here.
Right. I understand. I'd have to smell the smell to be able to comment on this. I think it's really hard to hear an old sea ghost tell me about it, but
yes, thank you for bringing him up. I assume the reporter at the beginning of that story, yeah, he should be telling ghost stories, not reporting on current events.
Here we are in Mayorstown at the post office, and it smells here. Ooh.
At the Marystown post office, at times, a foul smell seeps into the building, creating an unsafe work environment for staff.
Yeah. I'm proud of this it's NTV News that we just heard that clip from. And I think it's pretty brave of them to take that unique of a voice. But I like that. I think, you know, there's the voice you often hear on the evening news. Wherever you are in the world, it's like that same kind of style of voice and delivery. This guy takes a whole different route, and I think it's quite pleasing to the ear.
It is pleasing to the ear, although at times slightly terrifying, but generally it's pleasing to the ear. Instead of reporting on the news, this person should be producing like audio horror fiction, maybe, like being the narrator in different
creepy
ghost
pastas.
Stories. Yeah. That's what that person should be doing.
You had it right there with kind of like sea shanties. Imagine there was a book that was like a collection of stories of like shipwrecks or like haunted boat kind of apparitions at sea at night.
Yeah.
I could hear his voice really doing that.
Absolutely. That's how I imagined it when I first heard him. I'm like, this guy is telling a ghost of the sea story. Like a haunted ship or whatever. And instead of reporting on stinky postal offices, you know?
We got to move on. We have one final story to break down. We don't do this often, travel across the Canadian border into the United States. And when we do, it's for very good reason. I'm not choosing to do this. I have a listener request to talk about the story. I'm going to play a little message we got from Maddie, and then we're going to travel to Ohio. Here's what Maddie had to say.
Hi Hi, Jordan and Aaron. This is Maddie from Wisconsin. There's a news story going around right now about a raccoon smoking a meth pipe, and there is body cam footage from an officer taking away the meth pipe from the raccoon. To which then the raccoon finds a second meth pipe and then tries to smoke out of it. It is the stupidest and craziest and funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. They had a press conference discussing this situation with the guy who was there arresting this person and getting the meth pipe away from the raccoon.
Aaron, before Maddie made us hip to this, in out in the wild on your phone or whatever, did you come across the story of the meth smoking raccoon?
No. Up until now, I assumed that raccoons were functional members of animal society.
We did actually, now that I think about it, did we not talk about raccoons that got addicted that were...
No, there was an animal. I can't remember if it was a raccoon or not, but it was an animal that was getting into, maybe it was methamphetamine.
Yeah, I think it was fentanyl. It was fentanyl. It was raccoons that got into fentanyl.
Yes, that's what it was. It was like,
so I guess
they were going through a dumpster or something.
Yeah, and they grabbed little pieces of tinfoil that had like fentanyl in them, it seemed. Okay, it's all coming back to me. It was a lady who had, somewhere in Canada, I think maybe it was in Ontario, or maybe it was in Alberta. Regardless, she had like a raccoon overdose on fentanyl on her doorstep.
Yes,
I
took
think
it to the vet. Yes, right.
Yes, okay, we're going back a little ways. But it seems like maybe the way methamphetamine and fentanyl affects humans, it does the same with animals, raccoons specifically, and they can get addicted. I'm going to play you the news clip. I'm going to play you a news clip that tells the rest of the story that Maddie just teased. And we'll get to hear a little bit of body cam footage in which a cop pulls someone over, and while investigating it, their pet raccoon is trying to smoke meth in their van. The U.S. sounds nuts. Here's the story about the meth raccoon.
Police in Ohio say they made an unexpected discovery during a traffic stop earlier this week.
No, don't reach for it. That's evidence now.
Oh, I don't want him to have that.
That's why I'm going to do it.
Okay, after detaining a woman for having an active warrant and suspended driver's license, an officer saw, and you perhaps saw it as well, a raccoon in the front seat with a drug pipe in its mouth. Police say the animal was a pet named Chewy. Now, they eventually found bulk meth, crack cocaine, and several used glass pipes in this vehicle. The woman is facing drug possession charges, while authorities say Chewy was unharmed in the incident.
The raccoon's playing with her meth pipe.
All right.
Oh, there's no... He's trying to smoke it.
All right. Thanks.
There's no way.
What can we even say about that other than just lay it there on the table like that happened?
I hope they took this raccoon to the vet as well.
They said no animals were harmed, no raccoons were harmed in the making of this story. They certainly were. Smoking meth can't be good for a raccoon.
No, its teeth are going to fall out. It's not good to have that happen. But get the raccoon to a vet, get it assessed, get it checked over to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And then I hope that it doesn't go back to these owners because, my God, they seem like the worst.
Yeah, I don't think there's the future, I think, is a little bleak for this raccoon, but hopefully someone, an animal's injured or something, they send it to like a rescue kind of center and it becomes at a zoo or, these sorts of things. Usually it's because they got like injured or hit by a car or something. This is going to be like a recovering addict raccoon. I said earlier, it'd be amazing if they could domesticate foxes. I have the same feelings about raccoons. Is there a cuter animal than a raccoon? I know they wouldn't make a great pet. As we hear in this story, they probably shouldn't be kept as pets. But if there was a way that they could domesticate them like a cat or a dog, and they could live in your house and be safe and clean and stuff, I'd love to have a raccoon.
Yeah, they look so cuddly, as violent and aggressive and powerful as they are.
Do you know they wash their hands?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they are clean. They're very clean.
Yeah. They have like taste buds kind of thing in their hands, or like something like a taste bud. And that way, when they're like digging through stuff, if they wash their hands, they can dig through like garbage or something and kind of taste what they're touching. And I think they use that as a way to like find food, I guess.
I'm glad
That's
I don't
probably
have
how.
that special ability. Because can you imagine, like, all the things that you touch throughout the day? Imagine tasting all of them.
Yeah. Oh, shaking hands with someone, you just taste their hand. It's like
Yeah.
salty and disgusting.
Yeah, no, I don't want to taste any of the things that I touch. Anything that I'm touching that I want to taste, I'm already putting in my mouth. So I have no need to taste them with my hands.
Yeah. Our lives would be so different
Yeah, it would.
if we could
It
taste their
would.
hands.
So anyway, but I guess the raccoons find it useful. So natural kind of, the process of
It's the cross they bear.
Yeah.
It's the burden they bear.
I don't know if it's a
I wanna-
burden for them, but yeah, it would be for us.
Yeah. We got a good story to go out on here. We've covered a lot tonight. We've been all around the Keep Canada Weird block. But I want to end with not so much a seniors eating ice cream story. We have a voicemail from a listener named Shelby. She enjoys the seniors eating ice cream stories, but I think the only part of them she really likes is the ice cream. You want to go out on Shelby waxing poetic about ice cream?
I would go out on anybody talking about ice cream.
Hello, Jordan and handsome Aaron Airport. My name's Shelby. I'm a listener here from the States. I just want to say first off that I love listening to the show. I look forward to laughing on Fridays listening to Keep Canada Weird. I just wanted to pop in and say that I love the elderly ice cream eating stories. I think my favorite part, though, isn't about the elderly. It's really about the ice cream. I like hearing the different flavors that people like to eat from the areas that they live in. Like, I've never heard of Heavenly Hash, so I have no clue what kind of ice cream that even is. I'm from Pennsylvania, and a flavor that's popular here that really isn't around in a lot of parts, it's called tea berry. It's a bright Pepto-Bismol pink ice cream that is kind of like a wintergreen, like a light wintergreen flavor. It's pretty good, very popular among the elderly here. And obviously it only comes in hard dipped ice cream. So that's one we like here. All right. I think that's all I have to say, but I'll keep listening and I will try to keep it weird.
What other podcast would that be like a in context to send that voicemail? What have we created here? I love it though. Hearing her, I just wonder when I listen, she's in a perfectly quiet space and she's just really enjoying talking about ice cream and thinking about ice cream. That felt like a very sincere voicemail.
Yeah, kind of the setting of it almost reminded me of as if she was at a poetry open mic cafe where she's just sitting at the microphone and everybody is just quiet, sipping their coffee. And
Yeah, and it's like she's a little awkward at first, but once she starts letting it out,
when
she's
she
like, "I got
starts
this."
rolling and then she starts talking about the different flavors, and I've never heard of this heavenly hash, but boy, it sounds so divine. Like she's getting really into it. She was very into it. So I could actually, and this is an idea for Shelby to roll with if she wants, but I think she should record herself talking about ice cream for extended periods of time, because I think people would listen to that while they go to sleep. It's very hypnotic and relaxing, and you can get really wrapped up in it. And I think it would be really good for people who have a hard time falling asleep to listen to Shelby talk about ice cream.
I think that's a great idea. She could use the name like the ice cream beatnik, because it was like kind of beatnik poetry sort of in a way, But then again, that may go against the sleeping because I almost picture her with like bongos.
Well, I should call it ice cream dreams with Shelby.
Ice cream dreams with Shelby. That's you, man. You came up swinging with that. That's a great name.
Yeah.
I can visualize the cover art. It would be like kind of like it would have to be AI generated, but it would be like someone laying on a bed made out of scoops of ice cream or soft serve ice cream, and it'd be ice cream dreams with Shelby.
Yeah.
See, that was good. That was a great way to end the show.
Yeah,
I feel
perfect.
great now. I'm gonna go get some ice cream and lay in bed and think about all the wonderful flavors of ice cream.
Yeah. I've got it. You know what? For my special drink next week, I'm going to not have a drink. I'm going to have some Heavenly Hash ice cream. If I can find
What is
some.
Heavenly Hash ice cream? I've known about it my whole life, but it's vanilla with chunks of
No. It's chocolate and with marshmallow. And I think there's some nuts in there too.
Oh, okay. Not at all what I'm thinking then. Okay, yeah, I don't like any kind of predominantly chocolate ice cream. Like if it's a mix of stuff, I want the base to be vanilla, not chocolate. So the reason I don't know Heavenly Hash is because I would have been like, okay, it's chocolate with a bunch of other crap in it. No, thank you.
It's not crap. Now you've offended me. So last week it was models. And then earlier in the episode, it was anyone who works at a post office. And now it's me. So who's next? Who is next on your list?
Before I step in it, let's wrap this up. Let's put a bow on this. Let's put the lid back on the ice cream and stick it back in the freezer. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, bus stop, backhoe, post office, Bonaparte, until next time.
If you sit down with a psychic and they offer anything more than the base rate, any off-menu psychic services, I'd say turn them down. Even if you're lonely, even if you want someone to fall in love with you, even if there's a demon trapped in your body.
And Jordan, until next time, if I were a raccoon, I wouldn't need to smoke crystal meth. I would just simply spend time with you, and that would get me high enough.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you've got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, Nicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
Just 1 sec. Just heard my kids squeal. I think my kid fell out of the bed and yelled and then got back in bed. It's all good.
Well, if you give me $50,000, I'll make sure that your kid stays in bed the rest of the night.
I just got a text. Remember I said I think my kid fell out of the bed and they were screaming?
Yeah.
I just got a text from my son. He said, "You don't need to respond to this right away. I know you're working. I saw 2 spiders." And then in brackets it says, "I think it may have been the same spider twice. I've just been battling it for about 15 minutes." So it seems like what's happening upstairs.
The same spider twice.
What's happening upstairs is not like falling out of bed and getting back in. It's like probably swatting at the ceiling.
Yeah, jumping and climbing.
And giggling.
Defending himself.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not up there for it.
He was telling me the girl loves you more. It's like that.
If you give $12,000.
Yeah.
They told you they'd fix your marriage.
Yeah.
And did they fix your marriage?
No.